And a hush falls over the room. All right. Thank you so much for coming, everyone. My name is Adam Porter. I'm co-founder of Pursuit Co-working here in Harrisburg. You may formally know us as Startup Harrisburg. We just rebranded this week, so we're super excited. Thank you. One of our presenters, Jameson, who you'll hear from today, is also one of our members, so shout out to him. A couple of housekeeping items before we get started. Restrooms are through that door, kind of around the corner. We do still have plenty of beverages, adult Lunchables, and that sort of thing up here for afterward. And then our friends at Honey Bear have some amazing vegan ice cream in the back for afterwards, so do use the ticket you got on your way in to get some of that deliciousness. What flavors do we have?
We got 7 flavors.
Excellent.
Many.
Cool, good. You'll surely find something. So where are you? You are at Keystone Merge. We are a regional gathering of thinkers and doers, and we meet first Thursdays, rotating between York, Harrisburg, and Lancaster. A huge thank you to our community partners who are on the back of your programs. Do check them out, Google them at your leisure. We are here to learn about great things people are creating in our community and to provide real-time support to entrepreneurs. You'll hear from 2 of them tonight who will present for 10 minutes each, and then we'll have 10 minutes for questions afterwards to help them through the issue they have identified and are presenting about. Like I said, I'm from Pursuit Co-working. We are Harrisburg's co-working space just 2 blocks that way across Forester Street in Midtown. PursuitCoworking.com, do check us out. And now to talk a little bit about where we physically are is Josh Benton, co-founder of And Culture, whose company resides here.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
You're a lot taller than I am. Thanks for coming. This is And Culture's offices, and as I was talking to Adam earlier, we picked a great time to renovate this building right before the pandemic. So you are seeing the fruits of many hours of a variety of people that have done a great job here, and April 1, we'll be going to a permanent hybrid schedule. So we've been remote up until this point. We were going to come back January 3rd, but then Delta happened, and then we were going to come back like March 1st, and then Omicron happened. And so now we're going to come back April Fool's Day. So that seems like a good day to try to make a return. So where you're sitting right now, this is obviously the Waterworks building, but this space right here in particular, before we acquired this property, was a quick reaction force for the DEA ATF. So it's funny, they had about where I'm standing, they had an armory down here. So all of the gun busts and drug busts that happened in this area were staged out of here. And the DEA agents there's a side door right there that they would run out to and into, so no one would see them because many of them are undercover. And I remember when we were looking at acquiring the property, knocking on their door, which has this fake company's name on it, and some guy literally pops his head out and he was like, "What do you want?" and he's wearing a sidearm, and I said, "So what goes on in here?" He's like, "We're a marketing company." Slams the door. That's what he did. That's the only thing I remember. And the craziest thing was, when you buy a building, you're usually allowed to look at it. And we were not legally able to come into this space. The only way we were able to look at this space was by an injunction from a federal judge. So we actually had to buy the building without ever seeing what was in here. But crazy enough, when we finally got in here, because we revoked their lease, quite literally, they had to move out. When we got in here, they left all their stuff behind, and this is wild. There's like, oh my gosh, they just left tons of stuff except for the guns, but just maps upon maps of different communities that were all highlighted and checked and marked. And so let me tell you what, these guys, they were busy and active. And now, yeah, and Amanda's giving me the sign. So anyway, thanks very much for coming. And Culture is a design firm. We've been in this building for about 3.5 years. We've got about, I think I checked the roster today, 71 employees. We're so happy that you're here. And if you get a chance, please take a look around. It's a little bit vacant now, but April 1, we will be back. So thank you for coming.
first up is Jameson Rotz of Nearly Human Artificial Intelligence. He will be talking about sourcing talent and scaling his client base. It's all yours.
Thanks, Adam. All right, I'm gonna start the shot clock here so I don't completely overrun this, right? So thank you guys very, very much. Thank you for having me here tonight. It's really great to be here in person, doing one of these things again. I've missed this. Bill Maher described his stand-up comedy when the pandemic hit as like missing it like a dead friend, and that kind of heartache is what I felt throughout the pandemic and not being able to be with great folks like you. So I feel so pleased and fortunate to be here tonight. Again, my name is Jameson Ross. My company is called Nearly Human. We are an AI software firm. This company I've actually had this company in business for 10 years, but we've transformed in the past 2 years. We started out as an engineering and service and systems integrating company as Managed Technology, but we rebranded because through the years we worked on a lot of different projects, but we got involved with large contact center. And that back in the day was when machine learning and AI was just starting to get into customer support space. And so we took that opportunity to learn a lot and implement some automated systems. And 2 years ago, we landed a long-term grant funding that allowed us to take what we had learned and turn it into a software as a service. And we just completed our production release last month, and so we're in another transition now into marketing that new piece of software that we have out there. But as a company, to give you a quick overview, we have a mixture of services and product. The product I just mentioned is a digital employee, which is sort of like a next generation chatbot that allows you to automate different systems within your ecosystem. Our niche, our strong suit, I should say, right now is in customer support, but we're quickly moving out into HR and sales pipelines as well. On the services side, all of this technology that we've built resides on a stack that consists of AWS Kubernetes that runs in the cloud. So we have this scalable, secure, robust system. On top of that, we have a machine learning platform that enables the product. But what we do as a company is we offer services in the DevSecOps space for cloud computing, because we had to get good at that for what we were deploying. And so we're doing that for several other companies. And on top of that, the machine learning pipeline that we use for our product, we also use that to enable both automation and machine learning studies as a service to different companies. And some of the ones that are listed here are some of our biggest clients: the U.S. Navy, U.S. Air Force, Bright Power, Green Energy, and the Pennsylvania United Way. So that gives you a little idea of what we do in our three product verticals. But what I would say from a company perspective, some of our vision of like how we approach these things as we develop them. I mentioned what we do is we're cloud native. We work out of AWS, a little bit of Azure, and these are all modern systems in a configuration and code as code environment. Modern tech stacks to enable fast development and integration with a lot of both custom and community-based software packages that are out there so that we can be highly productive. The machine learning pipeline that we've put together was actually recognized at the AAAI conference in New York City. This is the last time that they were actually in person, and it was ironically at the moment that COVID was breaking. They held the conference in person, but there was none of the Chinese participants were able to come because they had been blocked 1 week before they held the conference, which was kind of interesting. And so we work in the GovTech space. We work with startups, and we have a couple of social impact companies that we work with as well. So it's an exciting space for us to be working in, and I feel really privileged to be, one of these firms that gets the opportunity through the funding that we've received to actually develop and field a product. That's it's a really interesting and fun thing to get to be able to do. But the thing that I wanted to bring up, I was asked to bring up a topic that we could sort of discuss that's sort of current from our business perspective. And the thing that quite honestly is our biggest challenge at the moment that I wanted to talk a little bit about from our business's perspective and to get some feedback from all of you as far as brainstorming where this goes next has everything to do with the changing workforce environment that we're in right now. Josh mentioned that folks are just coming back to a hybrid schedule, and I think all of our businesses have had to quickly adapt to remote work, and combining that with an incredibly hot job market in the tech space has caused some significant challenges for us and some really big changes. And I think that what will enable us to be successful over the next couple of years is to be able to figure out how we leverage some of the opportunities that come from the changes that we've seen in our work environment and contend with some of the challenges. And so to sort of open the conversation, I highlighted our background, which we started, one of the things that I initially really wanted out of starting a sort of cutting edge tech company in the Harrisburg area was to help build out a very modern and forward thinking workforce and help to grow that talent pipeline in this area, because it was something that I felt like at the time was sort of missing. There's a handful of companies that were doing this sort of thing at the time, but not a lot of them. And so we found a great niche at that point. I was doing business with the government, and my clients are in DC and Manhattan. And for several years, we enjoyed what I called labor arbitrage, right? Because I could let these contracts out of these super expensive areas and staff them here. And one of the interesting things that I've shared with people is I was literally able to relocate a data scientist from San Jose. And the reason I was able to do it is that this was a junior data scientist who had a lot of promise. I was offering a matching salary to what he was being offered as a junior data scientist in the San Jose area, but I flew him out here and showed him around, and he realized that my salary was 2x in this area compared to his cost of living back in San Jose, and he went for it. And so that was really great for us. But COVID changed things a lot. And so what we experienced is that at first, as we were hiring, we noticed that there was obviously, in the thick of COVID, remote work was a necessity. It has moved from our experience from a necessity to a sort of a preference, but I'd take it one step further to say a requirement of actually most employees at this point. 75% of my applicants, it is a hard requirement that they work remotely and from home. If I were to ask them to relocate or even come to the office 5 days a week, it's a hard no. And so that is something that we've had to learn to adapt to. While this has sort of has hurt my initial goals of building this talent base and this workforce locally, we've had to reach out remotely. That does open doors. There are far more people now that are willing to work and looking to work remotely from all over the country and the world. I say the world, but we're focused simply on the U.S. because we do a lot of DoD work, and so foreign nationals are kind of off the table for us. But that does mean that any small business has access to talent regardless of where they are. On the flip side, the challenge is that for us there's some just operational things onboarding, trust building, and ramp time has just proven to be really difficult remotely. Those initial What used to be the initial 3 weeks of employment has turned into 3 months, and it's just so hard to bring people in, get them fully ingrained with your team who is also working remotely, and to get them productive in your environment. And I think we have done a lot of investment in tools to help speed that up with, I would say, like, muted results, right? Like, it's getting better, but it's not getting better nearly as quickly as we'd like. The other problem with it is salary demands are all over the place now, and because everything is remote, like we're seeing like the opposite of that, what I used to enjoy about that labor arbitrage that's coming back to bite me, in that like folks that might live here or might live in lower cost of living areas are still getting offers out of Austin or Manhattan or San Francisco that you have to find ways to fend off. And culture in your company goes a long way towards doing that, but it only goes so far when people start throwing really big dollars around. And I think that what we've seen in the past couple of years is that the venture capital markets have been so hot, and the startup space is so hot, that there's always like companies spinning up that are well funded and are offering a lot of money to come on. And granted, those are probably high risk positions, because if they don't make their Series B, you're going to be often looking for another job. But at the same time, that, especially with a younger workforce, that can be really difficult to navigate. And then finally, there's the day-to-day stuff, right? Communication, accountability, and those are challenges that we find. Like keeping the productivity like where it needs to be, I found is more difficult virtually than it was when we were coming together in an office space on a routine basis. And finally, if there's anybody who's connected to the political system in the audience, any help that businesses can get to start modernizing tax law and employment law to make it a little less difficult to cross state lines is something we have to address in the coming years if this is going to be a new reality. That's something that I don't feel like I have direct immediate control over, like some of these other things that I can influence, but it is something that that I feel strongly about as we go forward, that needs to modernize for the new workforce. So all in all, I'm an optimist. I think that what makes this challenging right now is that we're in a period of great churn. Like, this hasn't figured itself out yet. I am really anxious to see. One of the things that keeps me really optimistic right now is, for the first time in 2 years, as Omicron has trailed off, we're actually seeing real fast, meaningful change in the way we operate as a post-pandemic society. And I think that that's going to really shake things up again over the next 3 to 6 months. And I'm anxious to see how that pans out. And I think that things like what Adam is doing with Pursuit is going to play a huge role in this. I do think we have to get back together in meaningful ways, at least part of the time, and figure out how we navigate a partially remote workforce going forward. So I've probably blown over my 10 minutes, but I will. I want to open it up and take questions and continue the discussion.
Yeah, so feel free to either write down the question on that little card with that pen you were given on your way in. I'll collect them and relay them to the group, or feel free to use the microphone to your left. You talked about a lot, so I'm sure you have loads of questions. Do feel free to air them to the group, or suggestions, or connections.
I'm not going to go to the microphone, I'll just shout it out. So your challenge, most of this feel your pain, in terms of these remote work.
Could you actually go to the microphone and start? We have a webcast. It's not really for the room, it's for the folks watching online. Sorry, folks.
What I said is we feel your pain in terms of finding the workers and getting them on board. Something that I found, and it's really relating to culture. It's relating to purpose, and this next generation of employees want to be involved in something great. They're not coming for the paycheck. yes, money's important for all of us, but how have you gone through that of trying to take it apart from the data science to how are you changing the world? Can you share with us how you are changing the world from an organization so that next generation of staff and employees can relate?
I completely agree with you. You know, that is one of the things that we've changed dramatically in the past year is our messaging. You know, part of it is because we're coming through an R&D cycle and we're actually like getting product to market that we're now marketing, and that the visioning and the language around that is all part of what we're doing to market. But it has been noticeably effective with our workforce. And I think, you know, for us, how I see us, how Nearly Human is changing the world is so we've started with the virtual employee. And what this does, what we've done with the virtual employee is move away from sort of like rules-based automation and taken some of the great strides that have been made in natural language processing and machine learning over the past, I mean, it's really come alive in the past 2 years. It's in a big way. What that does is that changes our ability to interact with machines and software. And I say that Nearly Human is intelligence software. It's sort of robots without the robots. This is the stuff that happens. You don't see it happen, but you interact with it. And for us, the ability to level up the intelligence of your software allows humans to interact much more quickly with systems and much more elegantly with systems. And so how this changes things is that when done correctly, and when we do this with the iterations in technology that are already happening, and the trajectory is pretty clear over the next 2 to 5 years, our ability to work back and forth. Elon Musk talks about the bandwidth between you and your devices, and he's right. You know, at best, we have right now, you know, like, well, I shouldn't say. 3 to 5 years ago, the best we had was like a keyboard, and then you have a thumb board, and that's even worse, right? But now we're starting to be able to converse with our systems, and that speeds up the bandwidth. So the faster the bandwidth is between you and your systems, and the more able your systems are to anticipate your needs, then the more productive everything becomes, right? Because it makes me more able to easily and seamlessly offload the repeatable and mundane tasks, or like remembrance intensive tasks that people are just generally not good at. The faster that I can get that in the hands of software, it unburdens my human brain to do more creative things. And that is a symbiotic relationship between software and people that I think is really going to carry us over the next 25 years. Because in that case, we can actually like increase our capacity as humans to to increase the capacity of the systems, because we're spending less of our day worrying about these details that the systems can handle for us. And I think that's going to be a big deal.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Who's next? Just please come to the microphone so the home viewers can play along too.
So you mentioned you've already put in a lot of investments in some technological tools to sort of bring that culture together, early onboarding assimilation. Can you talk a little bit about what you've done and what sort of results you've seen? You said it's muted, but curious what those are like.
Yeah, so the onboarding stuff that has worked, that we've invested in. So I think that there's two big things that I think we've seen the best benefit in. So one is interesting. I think we found that the way you communicate becomes ever more important. The reason being is that false assumptions or misinterpretations of what people say when you're face-to-face or speaking with one another can be quickly vetted and corrected. The remote space leans on Slack really heavily in the tech space, and there's this there's a trouble with the asynchronous communication in that people fire and forget on Slack and have an expectation that people are going to like catch up at some point. But if they miscommunicate something, that gets received, internalized, and probably acted on before it gets corrected, right? That's one of the big churn problems with like bringing people up to speed, because the new people don't have the context to intuitively know when something seems awry and ask the question about it. And there's no immediate feedback to fix that problem. So one of the things that we do is hone in on communication from an ontology perspective, and the more consistent that you keep the language that you use to talk about things, the less of that problem that you have. And it's funny, but like technologists, especially like junior technologists, love to use like lots of different words to talk about the same thing, and it's not always like they're not always aware that they're even doing it. But if you can get people like using the same terms for the same things, that actually does help. The other thing that we do is so because you're on Teams or Zoom or Meet or whatever so often, we spend a lot of time. We'll do like ad hoc communications, Scrum meetings, all of the things over those, but we take time to do lunch and learns, so more structured, more organized communication sessions and training sessions. They're very ad hoc in that we don't like obsess over these things or spend a ton of prep time on them, but we just pick a topic and we get like one of our people to come in and like start the discussion on it, and we record it. And we keep a video library of these things, and we actually curate that so that when a new person comes online, part of their onboarding is sit and watch some videos. Like, you need to carve out 2 hours a day to like get through these things, because this is going to help build some of that context without requiring actual like productive hours of our team to go do that. So that's worked well for us.
Yes, I have a question. I don't know if anyone has seen the documentary on Netflix called Code Bias. I don't know if it's like far off for you, but I'm hearing you say that you're making your system smarter so that people can work more efficiently, right? But how are you ensuring, right, and part of the people working more efficiently is because systems are, you said you're standardizing things and making things consistent, right, as this idea of removing certain biases, right? You mentioned things that just happen subconsciously when you're in person with someone and receiving what they're saying. So how, now that things are more systemized because everything's virtual, right, how does your company consider on your company system end that, how do you consider, and since you saw the documentary, you kind of know what I'm talking about here, how do you consider avoiding the bias that inevitably comes with coding?
So this is 100% a data problem. When you're in a machine learning space, this is what, so this is where I'm a huge fan of Elon Musk, but his killer robot fear is I don't share it, because I won't say there's no risk in AI. There's a lot of risk in AI. The risk is not that AI is going to become self-aware and evil. The risk is that there's going to be black swan events, because the way all of this works is it takes massive corpuses of data and it munges through them and it finds patterns and it makes probabilistic executions given new data based on old data that it has processed. But the realm of that old data that you feed it is the only context that it has. So, when it's interacting with humans in a given, in a tidy little, use case space or in a scope, you can canvas that pretty well and, nothing really bad happens. But as we start stringing systems together and all of those systems are using algorithmic-based operations, then you run this risk of, unexpected things happening. And then, so all that to say that all of these issues around AI, I'm super interested in them. And I think that like from an ethics and a social perspective, it's something that's really important to me. It's a combination, like the way we address it is a combination of things. One is that you have to understand the bias that's in the data that you're using. And there's all kinds of like data management methods that you use and to contend with all sorts of different data problems, but data bias is a problem that has to be addressed as you're processing that information. It's different from a lot of the other ones that will result, you'll find them because it will result in poor performance of your models. This is something that you have to look for separately. And so that is a big part of how we do it. Interestingly enough, truth is another one of those things, and you're seeing a lot of that. There's a big like inflection point in the whole social media thing that just happened a week and a half ago. We can like drill into that for an hour, but I won't. But these are the types of things that you attack two ways. One is first you have to be aware that you need to look for it, because you're not going to just find it in your traditional model performance measures. You have to go look for it. And secondly, you have to once you've deployed these things and they're running, there has to be part of your data management and your data science to this has to be monitoring what your systems are doing, because I believe that there does need to be safety checks in this system so that at the very least you're aware when some of these things are starting to happen, and in the worst case scenario you actually build in a circuit breaker to stop it.
Well, thank you.
Thank you guys very, very much. Look forward to meeting you guys. Thank you.
So up next, we have Christopher Moore. Is the sound okay online? Cool. He is the founder of Harmony Turbines, and he will be talking about finding funding to finish up his R&D process, finding expertise to work through his development stage, and networking with other manufacturers to reach his goals. I'm super excited about this one. I love green energy, so you're in for a treat.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm at a bit of a disadvantage jumping in right after the other one and having to connect here, so. Let's see if that works. Rather than my big clunky water bottle. All right, we are Harmony Turbines, and I don't yet have polo shirts. They're coming in a couple months. We're a tiny little startup, so this is the best that I have to sport our attire. But we are developing the next generation of wind turbines. And what we're trying to do is bring wind turbines to everyone. Bring wind turbines down to the level that each and every person, each and every household can have one and afford it, and it makes sense. Right now, you don't drive down the road and see wind turbines anywhere on houses, or okay, maybe 1 out of 1,000. There's a reason for that. And if you think about it, it's because the products out there on the market aren't meeting the demand. So we're a tiny little startup that began in 2017, and we started with a Ben Franklin grant. It was a pre-seed grant, $10,000, back in the 2018 timeframe, but the initial prototypes were tiny. They were handheld, and they were proving the concept that what we had worked. So you're seeing a couple pictures here of what we were doing in the early days, how Harmony Turbines began in my basement, in my shop. And it was a humble, tiny beginning, but we began a following on YouTube at that time, and it's grown. It's grown exponentially. We got bigger and larger as we got more capabilities, 3D printing, machining, lathe and milling machine capabilities, CNC capabilities, and grew from a tiny little handheld unit to a following that had over 1 million, 1.2 million views in 2018 on our wind turbine videos, to the ability to where we could actually start patenting and working on our products. So July of 2020, we had our first patent issued. And at that point, the online presence was large enough that people were saying, you need to do a crowdfunding. You need to start doing WeFunder or Kickstarter. Everyone was pushing me to Kickstarter back then. That was a little bit scary because you need a product that you're ready to put out the door and give to people in a certain time frame, 12 months, 18 months, something like that. And we weren't far enough along that I felt we could do that. So we decided to do equity crowdfunding. We began the equity crowdfunding campaign in August of 2020, right after our patent issued, our first patent. And that concluded in March of 2021 with $185,000 that we raised on WeFunder. Our second patent issued in October 2021. I made a mistake of not jumping on a second round of crowdfunding right away, so we survived on about $20,000 from May of 2021 until January, just last month, of 2022. Our account was down below $1,000 by the time we got our second crowdfunding first tranche, so to speak. That was about $100,000 that was infused back into the company, and we could finally breathe again. We could pay the bills, we could pay off a couple lawyers' fees that we had, and some of the contractors that were coming and doing work for us. Our second patent issued during that lull where we had very little funding, and in that time, you know, it's a big learning curve. Startups are hard. Startups are fraught with danger, and anyone that tells you they're going to do a startup without making any mistakes is feeding you a line of something you probably don't want. Our facility, during the time when we were, after our crowdfunding in March ended, we had $185,000. I used about 120 of that to rent. Well, we lease the facility for about $1,000 a month, 3,000 square feet. And the equipment that you see coming in there was 2 vertical milling centers. We have 2 CNC 2040 machines. We have a horizontal mill and a lathe. We have welding with both steel and aluminum welding. So we were basically getting the entire gamut of what we needed to work on our prototypes and push things forward, trying to get to a prototype stage where we could move into low volume production. This is our shop as it stands now. I couldn't really get a drone or anything. I guess I could have gotten a really tall ladder and gone up in the corner and taken a few pictures, but it's 3,000 square feet laid out very well, and we have everything spaced out accordingly to, as best we can, lean manufacturing principles, where we're not wasting time and we're not wasting resources running around moving things to different sides of the room. But we're a small startup, so there's plenty of room to grow, there's plenty of room to change things around. And the team that we have here is some friends, some family, contract labor, and 3 interns that had helped us. It's a little bit confusing to take all of this in because people are like, okay, wind turbines, they're these propeller type things, right? And they can run my house. So I'm going to digress from the speaking to you and actually show you a video of what our product is, because it's confusing enough that people don't get it at first glance. And when you see it, it'll help to explain what I'm talking about. Uh-oh. Did the volume... We had this working before. Let me see if... I have a feeling I know what's going on. Duplicate. All right. Sorry for the technical difficulties.
Automatic furling capability of Harmony turbines is so revolutionary that seeing this wind turbine in action is the easiest way to understand just how it works. Harmony's default state is fully open, like this. It starts spinning in winds of just 1 to 2 miles per hour and stays fully open during low and normal wind speeds. But when storms kick up and winds begin to climb past 25 to 30 miles per hour, Harmony begins to do something amazing. It starts automatically furling to protect itself from these dangerous winds. No other wind turbine can escape the wind like Harmony turbines can. Just watch some videos of what storms can do to regular wind turbines. As winds climb higher during a storm, Harmony furls up just enough to maintain safe speeds, but it never needs to fully stop. As the dangerous winds begin returning to normal levels, Harmony opens back up to its default fully open state, just as before. A vertical axis wind turbine produces power, in this case electricity for your home, no matter what direction the wind comes from. What makes Harmony turbines so special is our patented furling technology that allows our units to automatically furl or close to whatever degree necessary during severe winds, while still producing full power the entire time. Since climate change and severe weather is becoming more common every day, why not invest in technology that's built with our future as the priority? Producing full power over a wider range of wind speeds translates directly into Harmony Turbine's value proposition, giving our customers a quicker return on their investment. Our turbines are silent in operation, pose no danger to you or any wildlife on our planet, and they look like a piece of artwork much more than a power generator. So instead of your neighbors hating that you have one, they'll be asking you where they could get their own. Harmony Turbines. We now have the power to change the world.
Okay, so that probably helped a little bit more than listening to me talk about it. To actually see it in action is something that, they say a picture's worth 1,000 words. A video of something like that's worth a couple more words. So where are we at now? We've already completed round 1 of our fundraising, $185,000. We are in the midst of round 2. Our round 2 fundraising campaign ends on the 19th of March, so 2.5 weeks or 2 1/3 weeks. We're at $175,000 right now with our second round of funding. But our goal is pretty large because we need the funds to move forward with our specially patented generator, the part down below that's making the electricity and converting it into DC power and sending it to a power bank or whatever people are using. That technology doesn't happen in a vacuum. That development doesn't happen in a vacuum. So we have been approached by 5 of the engineering universities, 4 of them in Pennsylvania, 1 of them from the UK. Northumbria University from the UK, Thomas Jefferson, Bucknell University, Penn State University, and Villanova University have all approached us about doing a project with us. We have picked Bucknell, Penn State, and Northumbria to partner with and allow them to do a project on our technology. They took a look at our intellectual property and decided that what we had was special enough that they wanted to do an entire project on it. So they're going to be looking at efficiencies. They're going to be looking at clustering effects. They're going to be looking at all of the different variables that come into play with our furling technology and the varying wind speeds. So there's going to be a ton of data coming out. Penn State's project is 12 months, beginning here in the second quarter of 2022. Bucknell's a 15-month project beginning again in the second quarter of 2022. Northumbria has already received their grant of 100,000 British pounds, which is about 132,000 US dollars, and their project begins as soon as they hire a PhD or a master's degree student to head up the project. So all of the indications are pointing north that we've got something amazing here. The hardest part, believe it or not, no matter how wonderful things seem, is funding. At this point, we're moving forward with our development of our generator as soon as we can get funding for it, and the completion of our prototype kit so that we can move into early production, the beta production rounds, and get them out at customer sites. Partnerships are always welcome to fast-track development as we go. Any questions?
Well, first, I'd just like to give everyone literally changing the world in Central PA, so bravo.
Doing our best.
Questions to the microphone, please.
I come from like my grandparents are Amish and like so the even wind turbine thing like Amish don't like use electricity but they use kind of that technology to like fuel some batteries and they need just like minor power. So love the product, and then also my dad ran a manufacturing startup that was a part of like kind of grew up in, so I get the whole like bootstrap startup manufacturing vibe, like it's real for sure. Question like for like what's the steps to like the first customer, like what are the main barriers to that, and like the time frame behind some of that as well, like what are the main barriers to your first customer and actually getting this in market?
We have the engineering already completed for the furling mechanism. What we need to do is automate it. So that takes a little bit of technology with Arduino or PIC chip, onboard computer, small onboard type computer that will control and monitor the RPMs as it's spinning and then allow it to control the furling state. So the idea here is that it never stops spinning. Even in hurricane type winds, as long as it's built out of strong enough material, it's safer to be open and spinning than it would be to be fully closed and taking the brunt of that wind in one direction only. So you might only be open 10% in hurricane force winds, but if you're built out of strong enough materials, you're going to be producing full power right on through an event that every other turbine anywhere is going to be either broken or on fire or shut down because of that event, where we will be able to continue spinning and making full power right through it. So the technology to do that, the furling mechanism is built, but the AI and the electronics to do it isn't yet developed. Not AI, I'm sorry. The computer logic to do it. It's a simple loop that's going to be running, monitoring the RPMs. The generator down below, we thought we could fast track and just put our turbine scoops out with an off-the-shelf generator, but we've already tried 2 or 3 different ones that are an abysmal failure. There's nothing out there on the market that really meets the RPM range that works with our turbine. Because we spin so slowly, it's a beautiful turbine to look at. It's like a piece of artwork. But they're not spinning at 600, 800, 900 RPM like the other small residential turbines that quite literally drive you crazy when you're sitting there watching them or standing next to one listening to it go crazy in a high wind. Ours will continue spinning nice and slow. We're only talking about 200 RPM in a 25 mile an hour wind. And it's not going to go much higher than that, even if you're at a 40, a 50, a 60 mile an hour wind, because it's going to start pulling in during those high wind events, which controls the RPMs. So no brakes, no dump load, no extra mechanism that you need to have on current wind turbines, because it's all inherent right in the design of Harmony.
That funded, is that like a 12-month, 24-month period, like to get all that figured out, or?
If we had $500,000 tomorrow where we could hire 2 design engineers to help us fast track things and get a CNC engineer in, it would be, we could be into beta production within 12 months, 12 to 16 months probably.
I think he's your first customer.
It'd be nice. Thank you.
Great concept. Just 2 quick questions. I'm curious. You mentioned approaching university partners. Have you talked to any strategic kind of industry
Yes.
partners?
Yep.
Industrial control companies, et cetera.
Yes, we just had a video conference with IEC Holden. Rob Briscoe was he's the CEO and the owner of that company. We spoke with him just last week about moving forward with a partnership where they would help us develop our generator technology. They're a little bit too far into they ramp up production for already existing prototypes. They were uncomfortable committing resources to building a brand new prototype, an untested prototype. So they graciously thanked us for the opportunity, but they said they would be willing to be the company we go to after the prototype is developed. So we're still looking for that correct partner to to help us develop the prototype. There's about 20 different variables that could be fast-tracked if we have the right kind of partner to help us develop the generator prototype.
And you said you're pursuing kind of the full process solution.
Yes.
Including that customized generator, right?
Yeah, because, I mean, we could bang our heads against the wall for another year trying to find an off-the-shelf generator that's going to work, and you're sort of hodgepodging things together, taking your turbine and running it through a toothed pulley or a V-belt or a gear situation, and in the end, you're not getting that. You have, with our generator, the ability to start up in literally 1 and 2 mile per hour winds, where no other turbine on the market can even come close to that. You'll be generating power in about 5 to 6 miles per hour wind. Not a lot, but you'll be generating some power when other turbines are just thinking about starting up. And then the high-end spectrum, where current turbines on the market have a very steep climb to the 25-ish mile per hour wind where they're making full power. But as soon as you go beyond that 25, 26 mile per hour range, their production drops off sharply to the point where they're down at nothing when you're up in 40 and 50 mile an hour winds for the small residential wind turbines, because they have to brake, they have to do mechanical or electromagnetic braking and dump loads to control themselves so they don't catch on fire. The big ones have other ways. I mean, they've had millions and millions, billions of dollars put into their research. So they have capability to go up into the like 50 and 60 mile hour range before they begin shutting down, but they too have to shut down once they're above that. They have to brake, they have to stop, and I'm not aware of any technology out there that will be able to keep going like what we can do, which is why we hold the patents.
Really interesting. Good work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christopher. So thank you so much, everybody, for coming. This is a delight. I want to echo what Jason said earlier about gathering again. My business is getting people together in a room and just seeing what happens. So that's what we're here for. So thank you so much for coming out and doing that. A couple more notes. Obviously, again, a big thank you to all of our community partners back here on the rear of the program. If you do know of any other entrepreneurs who you would like to see up here, do send them to KeystoneMerge.com. Next month's is at the Candy Factory in Lancaster, one of my favorite spots. That is April 7th, first Thursday. Stay, hang out, have some Revittal Lunchables, some beverages, and some Honey Bear ice cream. See you next month.